Captain Julie Mason floated in the command center of the USS Defender, watching the most terrifying sight any human had ever seen. Through the thick windows of humanity's most advanced spacecraft, she could see the alien ship hanging in the darkness. Like a nightmare made real, the ship was 2 kilometers long, but it didn't look like any machine humans had ever built. Its surface was black and seemed to move like liquid metal. Strange growths covered its hull, pulsing with dim red light. It looked more like a giant sea creature than a spaceship. "Captain," said Lieutenant Paul Harris from the sensor station, "I'm getting readings I've never seen before. The hull appears to be organic. It's alive." Julie had been commanding deep space missions for 12 years, but nothing had prepared her for this. 6 months ago, she had been leading routine patrols around Jupiter. Now she was face to face with humanity's first contact with alien intelligence, and it wasn't going well. "Any response to our communications?" she asked. "Nothing, Captain," replied Communications Officer Nancy Kim. "We've been broadcasting on every frequency for the past 6 hours. The ship doesn't seem interested in talking." The alien vessel had appeared at the edge of the solar system exactly 8 months after the government of Earth had detected it approaching. It had emerged from what the scientists called hyperspace, a way of traveling faster than light that humans didn't understand. For 3 days, it had sat motionless beyond Pluto, apparently studying the solar system. Then it had started moving inward, heading directly for Earth. The USS Defender had been sent to intercept it, along with every other military spacecraft humanity could launch. But the other ships were still hours away, leaving Julie and her crew of 40 to make first contact alone. "Captain," said Science Officer Dr. Ryan Bell, "the ship is definitely scanning us. I'm detecting energy beams probing our hull, our engines, our life support systems. It's learning everything about our technology." Julie felt a chill run down her spine. According to Dr. Lisa Morgan's briefings, this was exactly what the alien warning had described. The hunters would study their targets completely before deciding what to do with them. "How long have we been under scan?" Julie asked. "Since we arrived." "About 6 hours now." 6 hours of having every system on their ship examined by alien intelligence. Julie wondered what the creatures aboard that ship had learned about humanity in that time. "Captain," said Lieutenant Harris urgently, "the alien ship is moving." Through the windows, they could see the black vessel slowly turning. Its surface rippled like water, and new structures emerged from its hull. These looked like sensory organs, dozens of them, all turning to point in different directions throughout the solar system. "It's not just scanning us anymore," Dr. Bell reported. "It's scanning everything. Every satellite, every space station, every human installation in the solar system." Julie grabbed the communication system. "Earth Control, this is Defender. The alien vessel has begun systematic scanning of all human assets. Repeat, they are cataloging everything we have." The response came back immediately. "Defender, this is Earth Control. We're seeing it too. Every satellite in Earth orbit is being scanned. The ship's sensors are incredibly powerful." Julie watched as more structures emerged from the alien ship's hull. These looked like weapons, long tubes that glowed with the same red light as the rest of the vessel. They weren't pointing at the Defender, but their presence was unmistakable. "Captain," said Dr. Bell, "I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the alien ship. Whatever it's doing, it's using enormous amounts of power. Weapons charging?" asked Julie. "I don't think so. The energy signatures are wrong for weapons. It's more like dot-dot communication, like it's preparing to send a very powerful message." Julie's blood went cold. She remembered the briefings about the alien warning. The hunters would study a civilization completely, then report back to their main fleet before attacking. "Earth Control, I think the ship is preparing to transmit a report. If I'm right, it's calling for reinforcements." "Understood, Defender. Stand by for orders." Julie waited, knowing that the most important decision in human history was being made in government buildings thousands of miles away. Should they attack the alien ship and try to stop its transmission? Or should they continue trying to communicate? The answer came 5 minutes later. Defender, you are authorized to use any necessary force to prevent that ship from transmitting. The future of humanity depends on stopping that signal. Julie's crew looked at her with fear and determination. They all knew what this meant. They were 40 humans in a single ship, about to attack an alien vessel that was larger and more advanced than anything humanity had ever built. All stations, prepare for combat, Julie announced. Target their communication arrays. We'll try. To disable their ability to transmit without destroying the ship completely. Captain, said Dr. Bell, are we sure about this? Once we attack, there's no going back. This will be humanity's first act as a spacefaring species, and it's an act of war. Julie looked out at the alien ship. As she watched, more sensory organs emerged from its surface, all of them turning toward Earth. She thought about Dr. Morgan's warning about the civilization that had been destroyed because they trusted too much and acted too late. Dr. Bell, if we let that ship report back to its fleet, there might not be a humanity left to regret our choice. Fire all weapons. The USS Defender launched everything it had. Nuclear missiles, kinetic bombardment rounds, and experimental laser. Weapons all streaked toward the alien vessel. The weapons represented the best military technology humanity had developed over centuries of warfare. For a moment, Julie thought they might actually succeed. The missiles struck the alien ship's hull, creating brilliant explosions that lit up the darkness of space. The kinetic rounds punched deep holes in the black surface, and the lasers burned bright lines across the ship's organic armor. But then the alien vessel began to heal itself. The holes closed up like wounds sealing shut. The burned areas grew. New skin. The entire ship rippled and reformed, repairing all the damage in less than a minute. That's impossible, whispered Dr. Bell. It's biological, said Lieutenant Harris, staring at his sensor readings. The ship is a living organism. It can regenerate damage just like a wounded animal. The alien ship slowly turned toward the Defender. For the first time since the encounter began, it seemed to be paying attention to the human vessel. Captain, said Nancy Kim in a small voice, I'm receiving a transmission. It's coming from the alien ship. Put it through. The speakers crackled, and then a voice filled the command center. It spoke perfect English with no accent, as if it had been studying human languages for years. Human vessel, you have attempted to prevent our data gathering. This action has been recorded and will be reported. Your species shows aggressive tendencies toward unknown contacts. This information will be included in our assessment. Julie grabbed the microphone. This is Captain Julie, Mason of the United Earth Defense Force. We demand that you identify yourself and state your intentions. We are gatherers of information. We study young species to determine their potential threat level. Your attack confirms that humans are hostile and dangerous. This data will be transmitted to our main fleet for evaluation. Wait, Julie said desperately. We attacked because we were afraid. We received a warning about hunters who destroy civilizations. We were trying to protect ourselves. There was a long pause. When the alien voice spoke again, it sounded different, more interested. You received a warning. From whom? Julie looked at her crew. She was about to reveal humanity's greatest secret to an alien intelligence that might be their enemy. From a civilization called the Veltar. They warned us that hunters track radio signals and eliminate advanced species. Another pause, longer. This time, the Veltar transmission has reached this sector. Interesting. You decoded their warning and understood its meaning. This is unusual. Most species either ignore the warning or misunderstand its importance. What happens now? Julie asked. Now we complete our assessment and transmit our findings. Your species will be evaluated based on your technology, your aggression, your intelligence, and your potential for growth. The main fleet will decide your fate. The alien ship's communication arrays began to glow brighter. Energy readings spiked across the Defender's sensors. "How long do we have?" Julie asked. "The transmission will reach the main fleet in 72 hours. Their arrival will depend on how they evaluate the threat you represent. And if they decide we're too dangerous, then your species will be terminated to preserve galactic stability." The transmission ended. The alien ship's arrays reached full power and sent a burst of energy toward deep space. The message that would determine humanity's fate was now racing through the galaxy at faster-than-light speed. Julie floated in her command chair, staring at the alien vessel. In 72 hours, humanity would learn whether their first contact with alien intelligence would be their last. "Earth Control," she said into her microphone. "The transmission has been sent. We have 3 days to prepare for whatever comes." Next, far below, on the blue planet that was humanity's only home, governments were already mobilizing every military force they had. But everyone knew that conventional weapons had failed against just one. 3 days after Dr. Lisa Morgan made her phone call, she found herself sitting in a room she never thought she would see. The walls were white and windowless, and the only decoration was a large seal of the United States government. Around the table sat some of the most powerful people in the world, and they were all staring at her. President Martha Collins sat at the head of the table, her face serious and tired. To her right was General Frank Rogers, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Across from him sat Dr. Amanda Shaw, the director of the International Space Communications Array. There were others too, scientists and military officers and government officials from a dozen countries. "Dr. Morgan," the president said, "I want you to explain this message one more time, in simple terms that everyone can understand." Lisa took a deep breath. She had been explaining this for 3 days straight, first to Director Stone, then to FBI agents, then to scientists from NASA and the Pentagon. Each time, the reaction was the same mixture of disbelief and fear. "The message is a warning," Lisa said. "It comes from an alien civilization that was destroyed by something they call hunters. These hunters track civilizations by their radio signals, study them, and then eliminate them. The aliens who sent the message are trying to warn us to stop broadcasting before it's too late." "And you're certain this isn't some kind of hoax?" asked Dr. Shaw. She had been the most skeptical person in every meeting. "College students have fooled scientists before with fake signals. The mathematics are too complex," Lisa replied. "The signal has been transmitting for over 1,000 years, according to the data embedded in it. The star maps are accurate too. A precision that would require technology we don't have. And the signal is coming from a location 47 light years away." General Rogers leaned forward. "Dr. Morgan, assuming this is real, what exactly are we dealing with? What kind of threat are these hunters?" Lisa looked at her notes. "According to the message, they're a species that has been eliminating other civilizations for millions of years. They see advanced civilizations as threats to what they call the order of the galaxy. They're systematic, patient, and extremely advanced." "How advanced?" asked a scientist from the European Space Agency. "They can travel between star systems easily. They have weapons that can destroy planets. They use living technology that can repair itself and adapt to different situations. And most importantly, they use our own radio signals to learn everything about us before they attack." The room fell silent. Lisa could see the weight of her words settling on everyone present. President Collins spoke first. "General Rogers, what are our options militarily? If this threat is real, we're not prepared for it," the general said bluntly. "Our most advanced weapons are designed to fight other humans on Earth. We have no defense against enemies that can travel between stars." "What about our space program?" asked the president. "Could we evacuate some people to other planets?" Dr. Shaw shook her head. "We can barely get people to the moon reliably. Setting up colonies on other worlds would take decades, maybe centuries. And if these hunters can travel between star systems, there would be nowhere to hide anyway. A British intelligence officer spoke up. What about the aliens who sent the message? Could they help us? Lisa felt a chill. The message suggests they're dying. Their planet is poisoned and their civilization is ending. They're using the last of their power to warn others. So we're on our own, said General Rogers. Maybe not, Lisa said. The message contains technical data about the hunters and how they operate. If we study it carefully, we might be able to find weaknesses. President Collins turned to an aide. I want our best scientists working on this immediately. Everything else is secondary. But Dr. Shaw stood up, her face angry. Wait a minute. We're talking about shutting down all radio communications based on a message we received 3 days ago. Do you understand what that means? It means we might survive, said General Rogers. It means we go back to the Stone Age, Dr. Shaw replied. No satellites, no GPS, no internet, no cell phones. Global communications will collapse. The economy will crash. Millions of people would die just from the chaos. She pointed at Lisa. And we're supposed to do this because one scientist thinks she decoded a message from space? What if she's wrong? What if this is all a mistake? The mathematics don't lie, Lisa said firmly. Mathematics can be manipulated, Dr. Shaw shot back. I've seen the data. It's impressive, but it's not proof of an alien invasion. For all we know, this could be a test from another government or a psychological experiment or just a very sophisticated hoax. Dr. Shaw, said President Collins, what would it take to convince you this is real? Independent verification. Other scientists working with different equipment gain the same results. Multiple signals from different sources. Something more than just one message that conveniently tells us to stop doing exactly what we've been doing for decades. An Italian scientist spoke up. I've been analyzing the signal with my team in Rome. We get the same results as Dr. Morgan. The message is real, and it's definitely artificial. That's not enough, Dr. Shaw said. We need more proof before we make a decision that could destroy human civilization. General Rogers stood up. With respect, Dr. Shaw, if we wait for absolute proof, it might be too late. Military strategy is about preparing for threats before they become reality. This isn't military strategy, Dr. Shaw replied. This is panic. We're talking about changing the entire course of human development based on fear. The argument was interrupted by a knock on the door. An aide entered and whispered something to President Collins. Her face went pale. What is it? Asked General Rogers. There's been a development, the president said. Dr. Morgan, you said the message was coming from a system 47 light years away. That's correct. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected something. A large object moving through space in that direction. It's heading toward our solar system. The room went completely silent. Lisa felt her heart stop. How large? Asked General Rogers. Approximately 2 kilometers long. It's not following any natural orbit. It's definitely artificial. Dr. Shaw's face had gone white. When will it arrive? At current speed, approximately 8 months. Lisa stood up, her hand shaking. It's a scout ship. The message described them. They send scouts to investigate civilizations that received a warning. How do you know that? Asked Dr. Shaw. Because stopping radio transmissions is a sign that a civilization has been warned. The hunters look for that pattern. When a civilization suddenly goes quiet, they know someone told them about the threat. General Rogers was already on his phone calling his staff. We need to activate every defense system we have. And we need to do it quietly. Wait, said Dr. Shaw. We still don't know for certain what this object is. It could be a natural phenomenon, or a probe from another country, or Dr. Shaw. President Collins said firmly, I appreciate your skepticism, but we can't afford to be wrong about this. If there's even a chance that Dr. Morgan is right, we need to prepare. Over the next few hours, the meeting broke down into smaller groups. Military officers discussed defense strategies. Scientists debated the technical aspects of the message. Government officials worried about how to tell the public. Lisa found herself in a corner with Dr. Kate Davis, who had been quietly taking notes throughout the meeting. "What do you think?" Lisa asked. "I think we're in trouble," Kate replied. "But I also think there might be hope in the message that we haven't found yet." "What do you mean?" "The aliens who sent this warning, they survived the initial attack. They lasted long enough to build a transmission station and warn others. That means the hunters aren't invincible." Lisa looked at the chaos around them. Military. Officers were making phone calls. Scientists were arguing about data. Politicians were worried about public reaction. "But can we survive long enough to fight back?" Lisa asked. "I don't know," Kate said. "But I think we're about to find out." Across the room, Dr. Shaw was still arguing with General Rogers. She couldn't accept that everything she had worked for, the dream of human expansion into space, might be ending before it had really begun. "You're asking us to hide," she said angrily. "To cower in the dark and hope these hunters don't notice us. That's not what humans do. We explore, we grow, we reach for the stars." "And look where it got us," General Rogers replied. "If Dr. Morgan is right, our reaching for the stars just painted a target on our backs." President Collins stood up, ending the argument. "We're not hiding," she said. "We're preparing. Dr. Shaw, I want you to work with Dr. Morgan to learn everything we can from this message. General Rogers, I want defense plans for every possible scenario. And I want all this kept secret until we know what we're dealing with." As the meeting ended and people began to file out, Lisa remained in her chair, staring at the government seal on the wall. 3 days ago, she had been a simple radio astronomer looking for patterns in space noise. Now she was at the center of humanity's greatest crisis. The scout ship was coming, and in 8 months, humanity would learn whether the warning from the stars had come in time to save them, or whether they were already too late. 47 light years away from Earth, on a world that humans would one day call Kepler 442b, Zephyr stood in the ruins of what had once been his people's greatest city. The sky above was a sickly orange color, filled with toxic clouds that had been growing thicker for the past 300 years. The air was barely breathable, even with the breathing mask that all his people now wore. Zephyr was old, even by Veltar standards. His skin had the deep blue-gray color that came with age, and his forearms moved slowly as he climbed the metal stairs to the transmission tower. This tower was one of the last things his people had built, and it was the most important thing they had ever created. "The message goes out again today," his assistant Kethra said as she followed him up the stairs. She was young, barely 200 years old, and she had never seen the sky when it was clear and blue. "Yes," Zephyr replied, "as it has for the past 1,000 years. As it will continue until our power finally fails." They reached the top of the tower, where banks of computers and transmission equipment hummed quietly. These machines were the most advanced technology the Veltar had ever built, powered by the last fusion reactor on their dying world. Everything else had been destroyed or abandoned. ZEPH sat at the main control station and began the daily ritual of sending the warning message. His fingers, long and thin like all Veltar, moved across the controls with practiced ease. He had been doing this for 60 years, ever since his predecessor had died. "Tell me again about the time before," Kethra said. She always asked this question, and Zephyr always answered. It was important that someone remember. "Before the hunters came, our world was beautiful," Zephyr began. "The sky was blue, like the color of deep water. The air was clean and sweet. Our cities reached high into the clouds, and our people lived in peace." He paused the transmission setup to look out the window at the wasteland below. Where once there had been forests and rivers, now there was only gray dust and twisted metal. "We were explorers," he continued. We had colonies on 12 worlds and space stations around 50 stars. We thought we were the masters of the galaxy. We were proud and confident. And then you started broadcasting, Kethra said, knowing the story but needing to hear it again. Yes, we built the most powerful radio transmitters in the galaxy. We sent out messages of friendship and knowledge. We wanted to meet other civilizations and share what we had learned. Zephyr's voice became bitter. We thought we were being smart. We thought we were being peaceful. The transmission equipment finished its warm-up cycle, and Zephyr began sending the warning message toward the sector of space where the young civilization, called humanity, was beginning to make noise. For 50 years, we broadcast our culture, our science, our location, our weaknesses. We told the galaxy everything about ourselves because we believed that knowledge should be shared. Zephyr's 4 hands moved quickly across the controls. We were fools. Kethra had heard this story many times, but she never interrupted. This was history, and history was all they had left. The first sign was the listening stations, Zephyr continued. Strange objects appeared at the edge of our solar system. They were small, barely visible, but they were clearly artificial. We tried to communicate with them, but they never responded. They just watched and listened. For how long? 20 years. 20 years of silent observation. We thought they were just shy, or maybe they were studying us before making contact. We kept broadcasting, kept telling them about our civilization. We even started sending messages directly to the listening stations. Zephyr finished the transmission and leaned back in his chair. The message was now racing through space. The speed of light, carrying its warning to a world that might already be too late to save. Then the hunters came, he said quietly. Tell me about them. Zephyr closed his eyes and remembered the day that changed everything. They came in ships that were like nothing we had ever seen. Not built, but grown. Living metal that could change shape and heal itself. The ships were huge, some of them larger than our cities. How many ships? Hundreds. Maybe thousands. They came from different directions, surrounding our solar system completely. There was no way to run, no way to hide. Zephyr's voice shook slightly. But the worst part was not the ships. It was what they did first. They talked to you. Yes, they spoke to us in our own language. Perfect grammar, perfect accent. They knew everything about us because they had been listening to our broadcasts for decades. They knew our history, our culture, our technology, our military capabilities, even our personal names. Kethra shivered. She had heard this part before, but it always frightened her. The leader of the hunters spoke directly to our government. He knew the names of our leaders, the layout of our cities, the location of our military bases. He had been studying us like insects under a microscope. What did he want? Nothing. That was the horrible truth. They didn't want to trade with, use or learn from us or even rule us. They just wanted us gone. Zephyr stood up and walked to the window. They called us a contamination. They said that young civilizations like ours were dangerous to the order of the galaxy. Because you were warlike. No, because we were growing. They said that any civilization that develops space travel and advanced technology will eventually become a threat to older civilizations. So they decided to eliminate the threat before it could grow. Zephyr remembered the speech the hunter leader had given. The words were burned into his memory forever. He said that the galaxy was like a garden, and his people were the gardeners. They had been doing this for millions of years, traveling from system to system, removing civilizations that grew too large or too advanced. They called it maintaining balance. But you fought back. We tried. Our military was strong, and our technology was advanced. We had weapons that could destroy planets and shields that could stop almost anything. Zephyr laughed bitterly. But they had been studying. Used for 20 years. They knew exactly how our weapons worked and exactly how to defeat them. The war lasted 6 months. 6 months of hopeless fighting against an enemy that knew us better than we knew ourselves. They destroyed our colonies first, then our space stations, then our moon bases. Finally, they came for our home world. Kethra knew what came next. But she had to ask, why didn't they just destroy the planet? Because that would have been too easy. They wanted to make an example of us. They wanted other civilizations to see what happens when you grow too bold, when you broadcast your existence to the galaxy. So they poisoned the sky. They released machines into our atmosphere. Tiny things, smaller than dust, but designed to change the chemistry of our air. Slowly, over centuries, they would make our world uninhabitable. They wanted us to die slowly, to suffer, to serve as a warning to others. HFY turned back to the transmission equipment. Most of our people chose to die fighting. Others fled to the underground cities, hoping to outlast the poisoning. But a few of us, the scientists and engineers, we chose a different path. You chose to warn others. Yes, we built this transmission station and began broadcasting warnings to every part of the galaxy where we detected radio signals. We told other civilizations about the hunters and how they operate. We shared everything we had learned about staying hidden and surviving. And some listened, some did. We've detected 43 civilizations that went silent after receiving our warnings. They stopped broadcasting and hid themselves. They might still be alive because they listened. HFY's voice filled with a small amount of hope. But others didn't believe us or didn't understand in time. Like the humans. Yes, like the humans. They have been broadcasting for over a century now. Their signals are getting stronger every year. If we can detect them, the hunters certainly can. Kethra looked at the transmission equipment. Do you think they'll listen to our warning? HFY was quiet for a long moment. I don't know. Humans seem to be different from other civilizations. Their broadcasts are chaotic, disorganized, full of conflict and competition. Most civilizations send out organized, peaceful messages. But humans broadcast everything. Their wars, their art, their fears, their hopes. Is that bad? I'm not sure. It might make them harder for the hunters to understand. Or it might make them more dangerous in the hunter's eyes. HFY began shutting down the transmission equipment. Either way, we've done our duty. We've sent the warning. What they do with it is up to them. As the old Veltar and his young assistant climbed down from the transmission tower, neither of them knew that their warning had already been received and decoded by 4 humans in a laboratory on Earth. The message that had taken 50 years to cross the galaxy had finally reached its destination. The question now was whether humanity would be wise enough to heed the warning or bold enough to fight back against the darkness that was coming for them. Jake Morrison materialized in a white room with no windows and no doors. The walls, floor, and ceiling were all the same bright white color. It hurt his eyes to look at them for too long. He was alone this time. The second challenge was individual, not for the team. Welcome to the mental challenge, Ambassador Zix's voice said from everywhere and nowhere. This test has broken the minds of thousands of species over millions of years. You must solve the puzzle before you to prove your intelligence is worthy of galactic society. A table appeared in the center of the room. On it sat a cube made of some kind of metal Jake didn't recognize. The cube was about the size of his head and covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when he looked at them directly. You have 1 hour, the voice continued. Solve the puzzle and you pass to the final challenge. Fail and your mind will be added to our collection of failures. Jake walked over to the table and picked up the cube. It was heavier than it looked and warm to the touch. The symbols on its surface moved like living things, forming patterns that almost made sense before dissolving into chaos. He turned the cube in his hands, looking for some clue about how to solve it. There were no buttons to push, no panels to slide, no obvious mechanism at all. Just the shifting symbols that seemed to mock his efforts to understand them. Jake set the cube back on the table and studied it more carefully. The symbols appeared to be some kind of mathematical equations, but unlike any math he had ever seen. Numbers and letters flowed together in streams of meaning that his mind couldn't quite grasp. Minutes passed. Jake tried pressing different symbols, tried turning the cube in different directions, tried speaking to it. Nothing worked. The symbols continued their endless dance, beautiful and meaningless. Think, Jake told himself. What would Paul do? He's the science officer. He would approach this logically. Jake tried to identify patterns in the symbol movements. He looked for repetition, for sequences that might reveal a code. He attempted to apply mathematical principles he remembered from his academy training. But every approach led to the same dead end. More time passed. Jake could feel sweat forming on his forehead, despite the cool temperature of the room. His hour was running out, and he was no closer to solving the puzzle than when he started. This is how they break you, he realized. They give you a problem that's designed to be unsolvable. You keep trying until your mind snaps from the effort. Jake thought about the alien ships floating dead in the chamber. How many brilliant scientists and mathematicians had stood in the same room, staring at this same cube? How many had driven themselves insane trying to solve the impossible? But wait, Jake said aloud. What if that's the point? What if the test isn't about solving the puzzle at all? He picked up the cube again and really looked at it. The symbols were beautiful in their complexity, flowing and shifting in patterns that seemed almost alive. They were hypnotic, drawing his attention deeper and deeper into their movements. You want me to keep staring at this thing until I go. Crazy, Jake said to the empty room. You want me to become so obsessed with solving it that I lose my mind trying. Jake set the cube down and stepped away from the table. Well, I'm not going to do that. What are you doing? Ambassador Zix's voice asked. There was something different in the tone now. Confusion, maybe even concern. I'm refusing to play your game, Jake said. This isn't a test of intelligence. It's a test of obsession. You want to see if I'll drive myself insane trying to solve something that can't be solved. The puzzle can be solved. Many species have succeeded. I don't believe you. I think you're lying. Jake walked to one of the white walls and sat down, with his back against it. I'm not going to stare at your cube anymore. I'm not going to hurt myself trying to understand something that's designed to be impossible. You have 30 minutes remaining. If you do not solve the puzzle, you will fail. Then I fail. But I won't destroy my mind for your entertainment. Jake closed his eyes and tried to relax. This was harder than fighting the guardian creature. At least then he had been doing something, fighting back. Now he had to resist the urge to keep trying, to keep pushing, to never give up. But maybe that was the lesson. Maybe sometimes the smart thing was to stop. Maybe sometimes giving up was the right choice. 20 minutes remaining, the voice announced. Jake kept his eyes closed. He thought about Earth, about the blue skies and white clouds. He thought about his childhood, playing in his backyard with his dog. He thought about anything except the cube and its shifting symbols. 10 minutes remaining. Are you certain you wish to fail? I'm not failing, Jake said without opening his eyes. I'm succeeding. I'm just not succeeding the way you expected. 5 minutes remaining. Jake felt the temptation to look at the cube one more time. Maybe he had missed something. Maybe if he tried just a little harder, he could figure it out. His hands twitched with the desire to pick it up again, but he forced himself to stay still. This was the real test. Not the cube itself, but his ability to resist the compulsion to keep trying when trying would only hurt him. Time! Ambassador Zix announced. Jake opened his eyes. The cube was still on the table, its symbols still shifting in their endless patterns. He had not solved the puzzle. By any normal measure, he had failed completely. Fascinating, the alien voice said. In all our years of testing, you are the first to simply stop trying. So I failed? On the contrary, you passed. The second challenge is not about solving the puzzle. It is about recognizing when a problem cannot be solved and having the wisdom to stop before it destroys you. The white room began to fade around Jake. Most species become so obsessed with the challenge that they drive themselves to madness. They cannot accept that some problems have no solutions. They exhaust themselves in futile effort. Jake felt himself being transported back to the horizon. But humans are different? Apparently so. Your species has a remarkable ability to recognize futile effort and choose a different path. This is unexpected. Jake found himself back on his ship's bridge. Amy, Lisa, Paul, and the others looked at him with worry and hope. "How did it go, Captain?" Paul asked. "I passed by not trying to pass," Jake said. The test was designed to drive people insane with an unsolvable puzzle. The trick was to recognize that and stop trying. Amy frowned. "That doesn't sound very human. We're usually too stubborn to quit." "Maybe, but we're also practical. When something clearly isn't working, we try something else. We adapt." Lisa looked up from her station. "Captain, I've been monitoring communications from the other ships during your tests. The crews that are still conscious are amazed. They say no species has ever passed the second challenge by refusing to attempt it." "What's the third challenge?" Jake asked. Ambassador Zix's voice filled the bridge. "The final test will determine whether your species has the moral character to join the galactic community. But first, you must understand something important." "What?" "The Council is reconsidering your evaluation. Your responses to the first two challenges have been unprecedented. Some members believe you may be too dangerous to allow into galactic society." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Dangerous how? A species that refuses to surrender, even in hopeless situations, combined with the wisdom to recognize when effort is futile, could pose a significant threat to the established order. Amy moved to her weapons station. "Captain, I think they're about to stop pretending this is a test." Jake looked out at the dead alien ships floating in the chamber. All those species eliminated because they might threaten the Council's power. And now humanity was next on the list. "Bring us to full alert," Jake ordered. "I don't think we're going to get a third challenge." The test was over. The real fight was about to begin. The chamber around the horizon suddenly filled with light. Dozens of alien warships materialized from hidden docking bays in the sphere's walls. They were sleek and deadly, with weapons that glowed like angry stars. Jake Morrison counted at least 50 ships, all pointed at his small vessel. "Red alert," Jake ordered. "All hands to battle stations." Amy Stone's fingers flew over her weapons console. "Captain, we're massively outgunned. These ships have energy signatures I've never seen before. Their weapons could vaporize us in seconds." "How long until our weapons are ready?" "They're ready now, sir." "But against as many ships." Amy's voice trailed off. Ambassador Zix's voice echoed through the bridge, but now it sounded different, cold and threatening. "Captain Morrison, the Council has reached a decision. Your species is too dangerous to be allowed to survive. You will surrender immediately." "Like hell we will," Jake replied. Paul Kim looked up from his science station. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildups in those ships." "They're preparing to fire," Jake thought quickly. The Horizon was a tough ship, but not tough enough to survive 50 alien warships firing at once. They needed an advantage, and they needed it fast. "Lisa, are you still in contact with the other ships in this chamber?" "Yes, sir. The crews that are still alive are listening to everything." "Tell them what's happening." "Tell them the Council lied to them too. They were never going to be welcomed into galactic society. They were always meant to be slaves." Lisa's hands moved over her controls. "Broadcasting now, Captain." "Paul, what can you tell me about the station's structure?" "It's massive, sir. The power source appears to be at the center, maybe 10 miles below us. There are thousands of systems throughout the sphere. Weapons, shields, life support, everything. Weaknesses? I'm not sure yet. But Captain, I think I know how they've been capturing all these ships. How? The station doesn't just have weapons. It has some kind of dampening field that shuts down enemy systems. That's why all these ships are dead. The Council disabled them before they could fight back. Jake felt his heart sink. If the station could shut down their systems, they were finished before they started. Can we counter it? Maybe. Our systems are different from the alien designs. Human technology might not be affected the same way. The first alien ship opened fire. A beam of blue energy shot toward the horizon. Amy fired their defensive systems, and the beam splashed harmlessly against their shields. Shields holding, Amy reported. But not for long against this many ships. More beams lanced out from the alien fleet. The horizon shook under the impact. Sparks flew from damaged consoles as the ship's system strained under the assault. Captain, Lisa called out, I'm getting responses from the other ships. They're saying their systems are coming back online. What? The slave crews are breaking free. They're taking control of their ships. Jake looked at the tactical display. Several of the dead alien ships were beginning to move. Their lights were coming on, and their weapons were powering up. The dampening field, Paul said excitedly. It's designed to work on specific alien technologies. But when the crews started working together, sharing information, they found ways around it. And we gave them the motivation to try? Jake realized the chamber erupted into chaos. The freed alien ships opened fire on the Council fleet. Blue and red energy beams crisscrossed the vast space like deadly fireworks. The horizon found itself in the middle of a massive space battle. Amy, target the nearest Council ship. Show them what human weapons can do. Yes, sir. The horizon's main. Gun fired. The energy beam punched through the Council ship's shields like they were made of paper. The alien vessel exploded in a ball of fire and debris. Direct hit? Amy shouted. That got their attention. Indeed it had. Half the Council fleet turned. Their weapons on the horizon. The little human ship disappeared in a storm of energy beams. But when the light faded, the horizon was still there. Damaged but fighting. How are we still alive? Mark Brady asked from the engineering station. Human engineering, Paul said with pride. Our ships are built to take damage and keep fighting. These aliens are used to either destroying enemies quickly or disabling them with the dampening field. They don't know how to deal with something that just won't die. Jake smiled grimly. Then let's show them how humans fight. The horizon charged into the Council fleet, guns blazing. They were outnumbered and outgunned, but they fought with a desperation that caught the aliens off guard. Every time they took damage, they adapted. Every time a system failed, they found another way to fight. Amy coordinated with the freed alien ships, sharing targeting data and tactical information. The diverse fleet of former slaves worked together despite their different technologies and languages. Captain, Lisa reported, more ships are coming online. The entire chamber is joining the fight against the Council. Jake watched the battle unfold on his screens. Ships from dozens of different species, all working together against their former captors. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, but the Council had more ships. As the battle raged, more warships emerged from hidden bays throughout the station. The rebels were being overwhelmed. We need to hit the station itself, Jake decided. Paul, can you find a weak point? Working on it, sir. Paul's instruments showed him the station's internal structure. There, Captain. The power core is heavily shielded, but there's a maintenance shaft that leads directly to it. How big is the shaft? Big enough for our ship, but barely. And it's heavily defended. Jake didn't hesitate. Plot a course. We're going in. Captain, Amy protested. That's suicide. Even if we reach the power core, destroying it will probably destroy us too. Maybe. But if we don't stop this station, the Council will just keep killing species that threaten them. How many more civilizations will they destroy? Jake thought about Earth, billions of miles away. If the Council decided humanity was too dangerous, They would find Earth eventually. They would destroy his home planet just like they had destroyed countless others. Set course for the maintenance shaft, Jake ordered. The Horizon broke away from the main battle and dove toward the station's surface. Council ships followed them, firing constantly. The human ship's shields flared and sparked under the assault. Entering the shaft now, the helmsman reported. The Horizon plunged into a tunnel that seemed to go on forever. The walls were lined with defensive systems that fired at them as they passed. The ship shook and groaned under the punishment. Shields at 30%, Amy called out. Keep going, Jake ordered. 20%. Keep going. 10%. Captain, we can't take much more. We're almost there, Paul said. The power core is just ahead. Jake could see it now on the main screen. A sphere of pure energy, contained within fields of force. It was beautiful and terrible, like a captured star. Amy, arm all weapons. Target the containment field. Sir, if we breach that containment, the explosion will destroy the entire station. I know. Amy's hands hesitated over her controls. Captain, we'll die too. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. These people had followed him across the galaxy. They deserved better than to die in an alien tunnel fighting someone else's war. But then he thought about the slave crews they had freed. He thought about Earth and all the humans who would never know how close they had come to extinction. Fire, Jake ordered. Amy pressed the firing button. The Horizon's weapons lanced out and struck the containment field. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star began to die. Asterisk.